Welcome to the Boulder Startup Meetup Group. And this month we are featuring Nicole Herring, who will be giving a presentation called Content That Converts. And before the recording started, we had an interesting discussion about some of the things she'll be touching. So with no further delay, Nicole, why don't you take it away?
All right, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. I've taught this to a handful of people individually as clients. I've taught this in a couple of group settings, and then I've tweaked it a little bit, so some of this content is a little bit fresh from then even, because it just changes from time to time. So, oops, let's see here. There we go. Why is it? Sorry. All right, so in this training, we'll talk about who I am, why you need content, the best source of inspiration for content, creating your list of keywords that go with your content. I'll teach you a simple content process for creating it that can be duplicated over and over again without being redundant. I'll talk a little bit about how to repurpose content, where you need content, and then this $31,000 secret that I learned, and I'll tell you about what that is at the end, and then we'll wrap it up. So who I am a life coach for entrepreneurs who are launching personally branded business. The reason why I became a creative services entrepreneur was when I decided that being a mom wasn't the career for me as far as being a career homemaker. So I went into all of the different businesses of what can I do to get paid to be creative. In that process, I found that a lot of people had a ton of mental and emotional hangups with actually going from idea to launch. And so I went into coaching, received coaching for myself, and then I'm becoming an NLP coach so that I can help people with their mindset. And the problem with creativity for me, the reason why it was a curse and a blessing, is because I'm the worst client a coach could ever have. I couldn't choose just one passion, one path. So in that process, I became a Kajabi site builder, a copywriter, a content creator, a launch strategist, online course creator. I've done photography, personal style, interior design. I've been published in a book that was an anthology. I've self-published a book on Amazon. I'm a painter, a maker, and basically just a creative junkie. So using all of my desire for being a creative entrepreneur and my corporate background in sales and management, I just decided I was kind of done bobbing around and really wanted to work with high-level entrepreneurs who are done trying to do the solopreneur thing and micromanaging multiple freelancers and just offering support on a lot of things. So I talk a lot about why you need content, and a lot of people don't. When you transition from a brick and mortar type of business, creating clients online is sort of like an abstract idea. People are just like, what does that mean, creating content, like clients online? How do you find clients online? How do clients find me without spending, hundreds and thousands of dollars on, online ads through Facebook and so forth? So what I try to explain to people is that posting online or networking in person is the basis of how you create a client. You're building relationships, and consistently being visible are some of the top ways to just put yourself out there. With a lot of the millennials these days who are running businesses online all the time, there is no business card for a millennial. Their business card is their Instagram handle. So when people are saying like, how can I find you online? They're just telling them how to find them on Instagram. And that is basically the, new equivalent of having a business card when you're not meeting people in person. Everything is digital. People want to go in, they want to scope you out, they want to look on your profile, and depending on who you're serving, but they want to go on your profile and look at your social media, whether it is on Instagram, whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it is Facebook, wherever it is that your ideal clients are spending their most time, that's where you need to be spending your time. And so building relationships with people just looks like engaging with people who are your ideal client, finding the value that they are connecting with, and sort of just trial and error of what are people wanting to talk to you about when you talk about certain topics? What are they catching on to? What are they feeling connected with? And then always leaving calls to action on all of your content. So if you're writing a post, or if you're doing a Facebook Live, or you're on YouTube, is always like how to join the list, how to take the next step in getting to know you a little bit more, offering getting on a phone call if you're a coach and you want to, obviously have a sales call or a discovery call or a consultation, whatever you call it. There needs to be an offer to a call, or an offer with a call to action. And then once you've gotten people to take even 100 micro steps, right, of listening to content, being consistent, building a relationship, giving them value, having them come back for more, wanting to get on a call, like this is how you create clients. And it doesn't always have to be a really long, drawn out process. I've had clients who just have been introduced to me by one person and they said, I know I need to work with you. How can I hop on a call? Sometimes people are going to need this long journey of a couple of months or even a year. I had one person who said she's been following my content for over a year and she wanted to hop on a call and like see, like what the coaching would look like for her. So, and I had no idea, right? So sometimes a lot of people will use what's the engagement on social media? What are people engaging with? If they're not liking it or they're not commenting it, they're feeling like it's not working. And that's just not true. Most of the people who are online, who are watching your content, 90% of them are never going to comment and never going to follow through. And you just have to kind of not use the vanity metrics of likes or comments to mean anything other than it's, you're just putting out content. So a lot of times, let's hop into here, people will ask me, how do you find your best source of content and your best inspiration? And so one of the things that I like to suggest to my clients is that when you are joining Facebook groups, for example, if I were a weight loss coach, I might join a Facebook group that is for, let's say like what's that book? The Obesity Code, right? And there's a book about intermittent fasting. And so I know that everyone who follows this book is people who are trying to lose weight. So if I'm a weight loss coach, I don't want to go into necessarily fitness oriented groups that are like trainers and nutritionists. I want to go with the people who have the problem and the pain point if they're trying to lose weight. And so you want to kind of seek out who is your ideal client and what are their interests, and then just go and then engage like an actual human, not trying to sell, but just grow relationships with people who are in the group. If people ask questions, you get to offer your expert advice and your opinion and just putting out value. The same is with networking events. The majority of the networking events that I have ever gone to, well, I wouldn't say I've never walked away without people saying like, I'd love to hear from you. Like, can I have your business card, or how do I find you? But the majority of the people who go to networking events are not there to buy. They are there to sell. Right? And so everyone kind of goes and likes to offer their services. And I think that there's a hidden or often missed aspect of really wanting to go and listen and introduce yourself as who you are in your business, always leading with that. But I think a lot of times networking events, people go there with the idea of like how to get themselves out there. And 90% of the people are also out there to get themselves out there. And so it's the same with online, building a relationship at a networking event is always the fastest path to creating a client. It's not going out to create a client at a networking event. It's just to build a relationship. And so if you change the perspective in which you're approaching networking, you actually have a higher chance of creating a client because people don't feel like they're trying to get sold to. So same thing on social media. So one of the things that I do love is that when people drop their drama on social media, they also don't always want unsolicited advice. However, your social media feed is the place where you can take whatever advice you have for people. This goes a little bit better towards the coaching and consulting industry. Some of the service providers, this is probably not quite the same, doesn't have the same like heft to it, but coaching and consulting, we always see it from a different perspective, and it really is hard to bite your tongue sometimes and not tell someone, show them their thoughts and explain to them, mansplain, if you will, why their problem is their problem and how they need to fix it. But what I do suggest is that when you see things and you'd like to offer somebody a piece of advice, instead of going to that person and posting on that, take that back to yourself, sit with it, and write out a post to this sort of as a generic problem, and write your unsolicited advice and use that as content that you share towards your ideal client. So the people who read it that have that problem will resonate it. And because you've taken the time to write that content basically to one specific person, even though you're not sharing it to them directly, that's one of the #1 secrets is to write to one person and being really specific with the message of that piece of content, and it will connect with just the right person. So your community space is where people opt into your content, so you can engage a little bit more directly there. And so what I mean by that is that if you have an Instagram page and people are engaging with your content, if you have YouTube and people are commenting there, if you have a Facebook group, if you're on LinkedIn and people are following you on your business page, not just your personal account, but in your business area, they have opted into your content, which means they're interested in hearing more about what you're saying. And so from that space, you can speak a little bit more freely and a little bit more directly, and assume that people are coming in because they do want your advice. So that's one of the things I like to talk to my clients about, where to find their inspiration with content. So as far as the pain points, this seems to be a point of confusion for some of my clients. And so when we talk about what a client pain point is and what you're creating content around, you want to really marry a couple of things. You want to look at what's the problematic area of their life that you specifically help them with. Okay, so if you are a coach or a consultant, or even in business, say you're an accountant and the pain point that the person is dealing with is in their finances, or maybe it's their business finances or their personal finances, but you are an accountant, so you want to be able to help them. And then you want to think about what's the emotional experience that they're having with their finances, and you want to be able to go into that. So you want to think about, okay, like, are they feeling terrified, right? Like, just one off the top of the bat, like they've been ignoring their business finances so much that they are just terrified to even go in there. They're feeling like kind of helpless or paralyzed. They're fatigued. Maybe they're just like overly busy. They have an entire shoebox full of receipts, or maybe they don't even have a shoebox. Their receipts are all over the house, right? So you want to think about, okay, the problem areas are finances, the emotional experience that they're having. That's what you would consider the pain points. You want to take the client's pain point and then show your solution and talk about how you serve that particular client in that particular pain point with that exact emotional experience, and what is the benefit that your service can offer them. So if you're thinking of content to write about, start with the problem that your client has, look at their emotions and know what they're going through in experiencing that, and then offer some advice on how to solve a problem. So what that would look like is here. Just like in any sort of story, in anything, whether it's a movie, a book, a short story, it doesn't really matter. There are 6 key elements to seeing the full picture. There's who, what, where, why, when, and how, okay? So you want to name your ideal client. And so you say, in the accounting experience or example, you would say, all right, are you an entrepreneur who is struggling with accounting, struggling with keeping their books in order, struggling with just even coding your receipts or keeping track of the receipts, and the problem is, identify what the problem is, and your business is suffering and you're losing sleep because of the condition of your books that are non-existent, whatever it is. Show them the impact, because the impact of not having their accounting, pieces together and having that weight on their shoulders and it being an undone thing every single night is something that takes away from their sleep. It takes away from, their ability to handle payroll, effectively and efficiently. There's a whole slew of impact of negative things that they're experiencing that isn't just the pain of the accounting being a problem. Going back to the health coaching thing, if you identify that somebody is having, is overweight, right? And they're feeling really unwell, the impact isn't just that the number on the scale isn't making them happy. It's also that they don't sleep well, or that they don't have enough energy to play with their kids, or that the clothes that they actually own and like don't fit. So they deal with the mental image every day of getting dressed and feeling not liking the way they look in the mirror, all kinds of things. So there's more of an impact than just the initial problem that their health is not where they want it to be, or that their accounting books, you know, they don't even have a bookkeeper or whatever. It's more than just the original problem. There's an impact to that problem. And so taking them all the way down and showing them the impact is the next step through content creation. And I kind of suggest sometimes breaking these down into multiple posts. You don't have to write this all in one post, but you could name your ideal client and talk to their problem, you know, ask them what their problem is in one post. And then just say, if anyone is having a problem with that, give them a call to action. Say, I would love to hear from you, or type below, what's your worst problem that you're dealing with right now? What's the #1 area you would like some help in? And then another post that you can have is to show the impact, and then also talk about why you are an expert at helping them. Tell them why you are who you are and why you offer the services or the business model that you have, how that's of service to your ideal client. Then you kind of move into another area where you talk about when then, and could be a when then statement or a when then testimony. And so what we can say is sometimes like, when one of my clients had X problem and we worked on creating Y solution, then some of that impact stuff, the things that are down the line that aren't necessarily their high priority problem right this second, but then they realize that there's an improvement in other areas of their life. Once this one thing got connected, then other things started improving too. You can kind of show how things improve over the course of time with not just the fixing of one problem, but really how one problem that we have in our life affects us today. It usually is an indication that there's other things that are not really well aligned or organized or clean and well taken care of. It's just an indication of multiple things. So somebody who in their business has totally messed up finances probably also has a messed up relationship with their personal finances, you know, things like that. So always talking about how people can work with you. These are a variety of different posts. You could figure out a way to make this into 6 different posts and have a different post, one for every day of the week, talking about one specific pain point or one specific problem. So if you go back to the one that we just talked about and you were looking at, you know, you go over here and you say, okay, like what are 10 things people who are struggling with their weight, or 10 things that people who can't get their business found online, Sky, like what are the 10 things that they have going on? And then what are the 10 emotions that they are connecting to that specific problem? That right there could then end up being 10 different weeks worth of content that you could write over the course of time. Okay. So with how to repurpose content, once you're writing something, you can kind of repurpose the same thing over and over again. So let's say if you were to use the whole who, what, where, why, when, how, and you were to create an entire sort of article or blog post or just a long form page with a lot of information, you could, with just a little bit of tweaking, break that into 6 different posts that you could put on social media Monday through Saturday, okay? You could also create something where you could just have a Cliff's Notes and, you know, just a basic rundown of what you talk about and a brief summary, and share that on Facebook and say, and if you want to read the full article or you want to see the whole video, you know, here's the link to it, and then direct them back to your website and have them, you know, make sure you're tracking who's going on your website. But excuse me, you could send an email into your list if you have one, and you could go ahead and start, like, have the first paragraph and then a click to read more, and then it takes them into the blog. So you basically have a blog that is the whole content, and then you can have lots of other small pieces, bits and pieces of the content, always directing people back to your website so that you can always track for that. Some people prefer to do video content rather than written content, and that's not a problem. You can strip the video and upload the video to rev.com, and for like, I think it's 11 cents or a very small amount. I don't remember what it is, but you can strip the video, the audio, and have it, you know, written down into, they'll transfer it from an audio content to a written content. And then from there, you can really easily put it into Grammarly, which is a website that you can just throw things on and it automatically populates all of the fixes and things that you need. There's a free version that does a pretty good job unless you are a massive content creator. You don't have to invest in Grammarly, but even then I think it's like 15 bucks a month. So from there, you can also repurpose your content even through Canva. Canva and Planoly. Canva is a place where you can create graphics to go along with your written content. And you can really easily, with a click of one button, you can take a picture that you have formatted for Instagram, or you have formatted the right size for you know, Facebook, and with the click of one button, resize that graphic to a different platform. And so that way you're not having to recreate it every time. Sometimes you do have to make some minor adjustments for the composition to look right, but maybe that's just me as the creative type. I'm like, the tweaking needs to be done. And not only that, but Canva has actually thousands and thousands of templates. So you don't even have to be a creative person who knows how to make graphics from scratch. You can just do it from there. Canva has offered a few things recently that I thought was pretty great. Not too long ago, they offered being able to schedule your graphics directly from Canva and connect it to social media so that you don't have to download it and upload it again and type up your content and share it there. You can do all of it in one. Planoly is a service that you can upload all your images and schedule it out 30 days in advance even. One per day for a specific platform for, I think, their cheapest, or maybe it's even free. It's been a while since I've used it. But this is a way for you to be able to even upload images and graphics from Planoly to multiple social media sources. So then you just do it once, and then everything goes everywhere that it needs to without you having to redo it multiple times. Also, you know, thank you, Sky. I learned so much about Google My Business. One of my clients is actually brick and mortar, who I'm just building her website. And I was like, this is perfect timing. I get to be able to add this as something that I can do for her when we're done with building the site and making sure that it's all up and running. So Google My Business, there's even places for you to repurpose content from your social media feed and put a little blurb and image in Google My Business, which helps you to stay, I think, relevant and consistent with you being at the top of a search because you're in there adding content periodically. But the most important part about repurposing content is that you are picking the right platform, and then you are getting consistent with it no matter what. So the platform you want to pick is not necessarily the one you enjoy the most, but it's the platform your clients are on the most. So if you are, you know, looking to support corporate people, then obviously you should be on LinkedIn the most. Also, depending on age, you might want to say that Instagram is better for the younger generation, and Facebook tends to, really, you just never know, but you just have to decide, make some early decisions. Where are the couple of places you're going to put your time and energy and your attention, and then just get consistent. You don't have to be everywhere all the time, but you do just need to pick a couple and then show up and offer value and build relationships as much as possible. Okay, so, I just talked about that, where you need content. Yeah, so wherever your clients are and wherever they're networking, that's where you want to be. So this is what I talk about. What is the $31,000 secret to creating content that converts? And why I call it the $31,000 secret is because that is basically how much I have invested between all of the business coaches, life coaches and courses and everything that I have invested in personally over the last 3 years going through my own journey. And this was the one piece that people seem to miss across the board until I hit this mark and I finally found it out. So before I tell you the exact answer, I want to ask you, what do you think are, and I would like for people to unmute themselves and answer here, why don't you think content converts? What are your thoughts on that? Because I did do a recent survey, or participated in a survey rather, where out of the 446 people the number one reason why they felt like things weren't working for them in their business was self-doubt. And the number two reason was lacking clarity in the compelling offer. The number three reason why they thought their content wasn't converting was because there was confusion on their messaging. And the last 10% people had a handful of reasons of just being overwhelmed as a solopreneur, that they hate marketing altogether, which is like, don't have an online business, I don't know what to tell you. And then of course, just suffering from shiny object syndrome and not sticking with anything. So I would just know if, aside from this, are there any people here who are running businesses that are online and they are finding that there's something specific that's keeping their content from converting? I'm curious to hear.
I think mine is a combination of all of them because, I'm trying to sell these books.
Yeah.
And so there are all these, take my course or sign up for my website or buy my DVDs and I'll tell you exactly how you can convert all your books into money.
Yeah.
And so everybody has some kind of answer. And right. I've tried a whole bunch of the ideas and can't get a conversion. I'm a writer, so I know how to do the messaging and the targeting and all that stuff. And so I'm in the 22% group. And so, you try all the stuff and buy ads, and then all of a sudden you're into the 56% group. And so it's frustrating.
Okay. Anybody else have something they want to comment here?
For me, I'm not really creating content right now to convert, and I think that's kind of why your messaging really attracted me, because I like the way that you're taking the personal angle on it, that like good content starts with an individual story and their experience. And so to a certain extent, I'm kind of doubting whether I can create specific content to quote unquote convert with like a sale. Now, what I'm selling and the services are like a little bit different, but because the conversion for each person is going to take place for different reasons across many different personal levels or understandings, I'm sort of doubting whether there's any kind of a message aside from my own personally crafted message toward an identified individual that could be on my website that can actually be like, holy shit, I really want to do business with this company.
Right. So let me ask you a question. So who is basically your ideal client that you know of? Sorry. And I remember you talked a little bit about what you did in the beginning, but refresh my memory here.
Ideal client in my book at this point is an on-premise enterprise that is looking to move to the cloud. And they're seriously considering it because no one's told them that the cloud sucks and it's unsecure and it's too expensive. Or as I've talked with people that are on the cloud and they know they're paying too much and they're tired of it and they're looking for something new.
Right. And so if you were to go through those two things and you were to list out 10 different emotions that they're feeling about why, like doing this versus not doing this, right? Like indecision is an emotion that somebody is feeling, like they're not sure if they need this or they don't need this. And so you could really say like, is moving to the cloud or moving off the cloud or whatever, however it is that you're referring it to, is this a problem that you have been hem-hawing through and weighing the pros and the cons? That right there would be a great content, like a piece of content for you to talk about the, why you would or why you wouldn't. What's the pros and cons of making the decision, right? And the impact of being indecisive is just that you're not taking action in your business and nothing is changing, or you're losing track of where you're keeping what. You're feeling overwhelmed with the files that are on hand. Maybe things aren't organized. I'm not sure what all the pain points would be, but you kind of can look at it from that perspective.
Yeah, that's kind of the interesting, as much as I resist FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt as a sales tactic, I do recognize its efficacy in some cases. But holy cow, if there's not an economic moment when fear, uncertainty, and doubt isn't like the clear, obvious play with digital transformation, the pandemic, I mean, you name it. Um, Myself, and it's written into my business plan, I prefer security, efficiency, and confidence. But again, and I think that a lot of people, because of how fast technology is accelerating and going beyond any of our knowledge or understanding, and especially like small to medium sized enterprises that only just heard the term digital transformation a couple of years ago, I would say overwhelmed, and probably fear of not knowing what the hell they're talking about, or even what they should be talking about, is probably the primary driver, and the fact that they would never admit that to somebody that's reaching out to help them.
Right. Well,
Because
and
the
this,
last thing they're going to do is be like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
right. Well, and here's the thing is that people do not make decisions. Most people will not make decisions based on, I don't mean to say logic, but emotions are what drive why people buy what they buy anyway. You know what I mean? So it's like, you want to tell me that I have to spend $1,000 on new tires. Like, ugh, I do not want to spend $1,000 on new tires, right? I do not want to do that. But if somebody say,
Sure.
for $1,000, I can get you on a cruise for 10 days, all include, you know what I mean? I would be very motivated to spend $1,000. And so people think that they don't want to be, and it's not about being manipulative, but it is really understanding and hacking into the emotions of what people are really experiencing and the problems that they're having, and tie your solution to not just being the problem in the business, but the emotion that they're experiencing in the indecision or in the inefficiency or all of those things. Like, those are the reasons why they're not pulling it, because they're not uncomfortable enough to pull the trigger and make the decision. And then the people who have waited too long and they're in overload, overwhelm, and like they don't, like, now they're having to pay out the yin yang to have somebody in and come in and handle it more as a consultant, than just like somebody who can help them solve a simple problem. Now they have to pay even more to have it handled by someone who's going to charge them way too much money to solve.
I was going to say that late stage help is often the most expensive variety.
Yeah. And I think people need to understand that there is a late stage help, and you're happy to help somebody through the late stages. But if they'd like to save time, money, and energy, then they could do it sooner and save themselves the headache. So anyway, so I'll go ahead and move on to the next one. And this is really interesting. So the number one, the $31,000 lesson that I learned is the reason why conversions aren't happening on content is a lot of times self-belief, and then of course action. People sit down to write content to try to sell their things, and they think about it, and before they do that, they sit there and they go, I don't know if people are going to buy this. This is just crazy. I mean, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't even know if people want what I'm offering. Like, who's going to read this book anyway? I just don't understand. People are not willing to spend the money on this. Like, what do I say from here? And people are not even sold and backing their own product and their own offer. And so then they're coming from a place of lacking belief that what they have to offer is going to help people, or that there is going to be desired and wanted or needed. And so they're having to overcome their own lack of self-belief before they're trying to sell somebody else. And I don't know about you, but I have read enough posts that felt like, what were they trying to do, right? Like, it's there's an energy behind what people do and say. And for some people, they can read into an energy, or they can read a post and they could be like, I don't know, I'm not feeling it. The same thing could be written by someone else who has a lot of self-belief and a lot of self-confidence and stands so firmly behind their product and their offer that the same words could be felt different depending on the person who is writing it. It might be a little woo, and I don't even care because it's true. There is an energy behind your content, and when you are writing from the energy that it's not going to work anyway, and I'm not even sure why I'm doing this, but I have to create content, or I have to write this, or I have to post, that comes through in the level of genius or ingenious of what you are writing. When you are so behind what you are doing and you have belief that somebody wants this message and it's right for the right person, and you know who you are and what you're offering, and you know who you're selling to or who you're offering it to, and you know their pain points inside and out, and you know your solution is going to change their life, you come from a much different perspective about how to write that. A lot of times the self-belief, or the self-doubt rather, then perpetuates more inaction, and then we're not posting and we're not creating any consistency, and then we're creating our own self-sabotaging behavior. So of all the things that I learned, I can create a compelling offer all the time, but at the point I just never believed that anyone would pick me up on my offer and buy what I was selling. The moment I started working on my self-belief and being really behind what I was doing, the confidence came through in my writing. In fact, the way that I wrote got way better. And then I started creating clients. I had a whole different set of problems with COVID and launching a business during a worldwide pandemic. But I still launched a business and ended up getting quite a few clients. Several clients who were referrals from happy clients, and that to me said a lot. But I had to really get behind what I was doing and just know from my own perspective. And the problem that a lot of people have with posting on social media, and they're requiring vanity metrics, like how many followers do I have, how many people are liking what I'm saying, is that we are then at that point using external validation for validating what we're doing and whether or not it's worth our time and energy. And so releasing the vanity metrics, or releasing even being on a call with a potential client or an actual client, right? Like there's even been times where I would have felt like, gosh, I really was expecting my client to tell me how great this was going, because I wanted to make sure that they were getting value. And that was an indication to me that I was really lacking confidence in the value that I was providing, and that I needed the affirmation from outside of me to feel like I was doing a good job. And so that is some of the coaching work that I have invested in, and why I'm working on becoming, adding the mindset coaching to this, is because the belief in self and taking action from that place is a much different energy, and it creates much different results. So for example, if we were to say that we wanted to create a client if you were on a sales conversation, and you were to kind of use the result of, I want this person to feel like that I can help them and serve them and take care of them, but I'm coming from a place of, they're probably not going to sign with me, I don't know if they're going to buy, and you have all that negative self-belief that you're bringing to the table, you're probably not listening to what the client needs and what their problem is nearly as much as kind of confronting your own discomfort in that conversation. So that's my